Often credited as the most instrumental tool in creating modern music, the piano has been around for about 300 years and really laid the groundwork for songwriting and for Western modern music, a lot of what we enjoy today. And it's kind of fallen off over the last century, but today we discuss the resurgence of piano and is it still the ultimate instrument?
Hi, this is Ted with Alamo Music Center in downtown San Antonio, Texas.
I'm Patrick Marr. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. Check out our new website, alamopianogalleries.com. It highlights our 9 stores around the country, highlighting which one might be closest to you. Come check out our store. Come play some amazing instruments, meet some amazing people. We'd love to see you there. Ted, this is kind of topical, kind of fun topic here. Piano, I feel like we've talked about pianos before, once or twice, but is it still the ultimate instrument? And before we shot this video, I have to admit, I went and sat and played the SKEX, that $200,000 piano over in the other room, and I was like, is this the ultimate instrument? I was like, let me just sit here for a second and play it and hear it. Is this the ultimate instrument? Before we jump right into it, a piano fact. I think we were going to bring a old history one out of the books.
Oh yeah, we had talked about obscure pedals on pianos.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned Erard. And
so the Erard piano was, played and loved by Beethoven,
Liszt, Chopin. Yeah. I'm trying to think some other big performers.
The big classics.
The rock star piano days.
The mid 19th century, big, all-time classics. So Erard pianos, he had some funky pedals for coming out of Paris first, but his pianos had an interesting pedals that you don't see on modern day pianos.
Right, and I don't know if some of these pedals, I don't know. I guess they made it down to pedal form, but initially they were knee braces or knee
levers.
Knee levers, and someone had the ingenious idea of getting the motion from just pressing down your foot. And but Erard came up with 2 pedals that you found in research that were really kind of weird. One is called the bassoon pedal, and the other one was the celeste pedal.
Yeah, and so the celeste pedal kind of, I think, evolved into like a soft pedal because of the technology. Was really kind of like putting a material between the hammers and the strings. A soft practice pedal today on an upright is a piece of felt that goes between the hammers and the strings. From research that we did, we saw that it was actually leather that they would put between the hammers and the strings, kind of giving it a muted
tone,
buzzing kind of mute tone that reminded people of a bassoon.
Well, they put the leather, they laid it on the strings.
Sorry,
yeah, the celeste pedal was the one that was kind of like a damper, and I thought initially that it would be like a una corda, which means one string, but it's just kind of like now what they call like the practice mode or the mute pedal. And but now on the bassoon pedal, that idea was they would put strips of leather over the bass string, so when you would hit it, it would get that little bit of a buzzing tone to go with it, so it would almost sound like a vibrating reed or something in the low section. And it's interesting because Aisha Denise on her Michael Jackson Beat It video, she does a couple of things I've never seen anyone do to get a sound out of a piano. One of them, she had broken vinyl albums laying on the bass strings that did the same thing. It made it almost sound like a bass thump and a snare drum.
Yeah, snare, yeah.
And then the other thing she did is she had one of those tuner's mute that go in between the strings, and she focused it on one string and got it to sound kind of like and so that, I know you can't make a pedal to do that, but with the vibrating thing on the bassoon pedal type is really a pretty cool effect.
So just there was some interesting technology thrown out there, and I think that was always the spirit of the piano, was how do we create a better, more refined instrument all the way up until you see, right around the 20th century turn, it was pianos have been very similar for a long time.
Well, they've got, this is why I love the concept of the Shigeru Kawai with the EX, is that it's still an experimental instrument. It hasn't finished its final form yet. as opposed to like the last 100 years, like this is what a piano has, 3 pedals and these strings, and it's like this, and it's like the EX comes along and it's like, we're going to refine it, and any changes we may consider, we'll put on here and see how it works.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that idea because it's more of a futuristic approach to the piano, and it's there to remind you that not everything is set in lock, stock, and barrel in stone.
Well, and so, what makes the piano ultimate if it was? To me, there was a couple things that I jotted down because, first off, you get the spectrum, you get the range at your fingertips of the highest highs, lowest lows, and pretty much enough to cover everything in between.
But I had initially corrected you. I said, well, okay, it's the ultimate instrument, but what is usually referred to as the king of instruments is the pipe organ. And I think the reason why what I just kind of explained it away was this, that pipe organ was not very accessible. Mm-hmm. You had to find a large cathedral or a large enough church that had a really decent one where you could get the same range. And there are some pipe organs that are just amazing in how many feet of pipe they have, and they're fascinating machines. But being the king of instruments, it could get you any volume at almost any frequency and then all these different tones. But accessibility kind of takes it out of the equation. I'm a composer and I compose on an organ. If I only had one, I could be really good. Mm-hmm. But not too many people ever owned organs until like the invention of the home organ.
Yeah.
And so, but the idea behind the king instrument is that you had the range and you had all the tonal variation, so you could test the concept of woodwinds or the concept of strings and whatnot on an organ. And so on a piano, they really became accessible because you had a refined area of the majority of all the notes used in music, from the low A to the high C when they got around to figuring it at 7 1/4 octave scales, that it had all the range of all the instruments in there, and then you could have one in your house. Even a little spinet would have all the same.
You could bring whatever music
notes
with it.
And so the accessibility opened up the world to everyone. Hey, I know a couple chords on piano, so now I'm a songwriter.
It became the map of music, really.
It really did. And if you're like one of the guys that was there that originally took to it and used it as a tool, Irving Berlin, all right, one of the most prolific American songbook writers of all time, really only played in the same key all the time. And he had a special piano built so he could play in different keys, but using the same keys he played on. They moved the keyboard and it hit different strings. It was a transposable, physical piano.
We could have kept that as a piano fact.
Well, there's a lot of piano facts in here. Just trying to get to, talking about the piano as the ultimate instrument, is that it didn't start off that way. No one went out initially and said, I'm going to make the harpsichord the instrument of the world. And that's really kind of how it started. That's where it ends up.
Yeah.
The ultimate instrument, but no one really thought I could make the harpsichord something everyone's going to want in their house.
And I think what's kind of beautiful is like that was where piano came from. It also withstood modern music and pretty much any genre you can find piano in, whether it's jazz, country, rock and roll, rap. It's been there as a staple in the background of a lot of recorded music, which, kind of, I think it put piano a little bit in the background. Of course, in songwriting rooms and things like that, piano is a focal point. But it kind of, from public eye, took piano down a couple steps because people went to go see rock and roll shows, or they went to go, and the keyboardist was never front and center. But what was really interesting to me is, and we're talking in the last 25, 30 years, music from a recording standpoint has been accessible. You've been able to get on your computer and record music immediately,
right.
Whether you're a novice or a professional, and you can get pretty detailed with it. But the map section of being a piano has come back as a MIDI controller, and you see kids, you see adults, you see anybody who's trying to record with an interface. They have some sort of keys next to them, whether it's a little tiny MIDI 12-note thing, or if it's 24 keys, or a full 88 keys. It's a staple to the computer setup. It's your MIDI control, and it kind of has come full circle to, back to having keys in front of everybody.
Right.
And whether it's, whether you're trying to articulate piano, or whether you're trying to articulate what did the organ sound like when I go back home and write with it, it's a map to guide you to creating the music you want. And so really, it's one of those things where we had, we had met with like a marketing team before for the store and things like that, and we boiled down something before where it was like, it would be great if every home had a piano in it. And like whether that means like a full traditional piano or if it's a MIDI controller or whatever, people who are inspired by music should have something with keys that translates to them what that map is. And so it's just interesting to see how that's come full circle from the early days of trying to make the perfect acoustic instrument with technology, with weird pedals, with different tuning capabilities, and how it was. It went from the bar, the saloon, to the stage, the concert hall, the refinement of culture,
broadcast.
And then the player pianos. Like you see all these pieces of history that really had a piano. You had brought up the marketing lens. The first thing that was branded in people's homes was piano.
Right.
And so it's been such a rich part of history, especially modern music, that. I would say it has been the ultimate instrument. I think it fell off, and then I feel like it's back.
It is coming back, and what's surprising is that attend to any classical piano recital. They're every weekend in almost every city across the country, actually around the world. And when you go there and you look at the age of some of the players and the level of the literature that they're playing and some of the pieces they're performing is just fascinating.
And then you break that on the flip side, we've sold more labs to school districts and universities than ever, because in the simplest form, getting keys in front of kids, whether they're that classical level of really taking it serious and being with it, or in the classroom, and there's 12 units and every kid gets to sit down and hear the teacher interact with them, and really make it combine the modern technology with the old instrument of keys.
In my banking career, it was always interesting because these are basically bank officers, lending officers, and there isn't any one degree field for that. And it was kind of interesting to talk to people like, where'd you get your degree? And well, the one guy I knew had his degree in accounting, but he said, hey, I took 4 semesters of class piano at school. Almost all the ones that ended up with just like a finance degree or a CPA degree or something, they all took music as an elective, and it was always class piano or something that was involved music, sound, and being involved with other people. And that, to me, I think is why the piano, it's rare that you can sit down and play piano and not have someone come over and want to know what you're playing or play something for you. Or, there's always, it's like a magnet.
Yeah,
for people.
And it was the center point of a lot of people's homes for a long time.
When they built churches and cathedrals, if they didn't build a worthwhile organ, you know what that meant? No attendance. People went really to hear the music, because that was the only time and place you could hear music, is when there were enough people to have a guy up there playing or a couple different musicians playing.
So to answer the question, yes, it's still the ultimate instrument, piano?
I would say that it has become the ultimate instrument. It's been the ultimate instrument, and it's going to stay that way. But it didn't start off that way. It was a series of events that led it to become that. And true to form, the other problem with making the piano the ultimate instrument is initially you couldn't go to a factory and buy them. You couldn't buy a piano. You had to find a guy that was willing to make one for you. And not everyone signed on to make pianos right away. But the true, quote unquote, factory or making of the piano as an instrument for a level of employment for people is about as old, exactly as old as the United States of America. It was around 1790, the first imported pianos were coming into Boston and Philadelphia. And then by that time, people were saying, we don't need to get these from Europe. We got everything here. We can make our own. And so a lot of your first cabinet makers and furniture makers got out of doing harpsichord cases and started getting into building pianos, or having the piano guys find a place where they could do, their piano work alongside a furniture maker. Well,
there you have it, the history lesson for today. Well, thank you guys for watching. Again, this is very topical on just piano-related.
Being the ultimate instrument.
Is it the ultimate instrument? We have to ask ourselves that every once in a while. It's fun for me to be able to sit in front of the SKEX and just zone out and play for a little bit.
Here's another case in point. Think of how many college-bound musicians that come in here to upgrade They're to get the top of the line clarinet or saxophone. And what do they always do? They always look around and think, well, I need to get a little piano. I need to get, because they're studying music and they don't have the range and they can't play more than one note at a time on their solo instrument. So they all want a piano to focus in on harmony.
Yeah.
And even guitar guys, we have guitar guys that come in, well, I got a bunch of acoustics and I'm thinking right now it's about time I need to get a piano in there because I'm getting people playing and we're all looking to get to around the piano to look at chordings and voicings, and a lot of guitar guys come and poke around at pianos, and if they don't have one, they're getting one.
Yeah. So it's, kind of a requirement to have a piano at some point as a musician.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, let us know if you agree, if you disagree. Leave comments below. What did we miss? What is the reason you think it's the ultimate instrument, or maybe it's not the ultimate instrument?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of drummers out there going to give us some comments.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching. Again, it's Ted Barcelou. I'm Patrick Marr here at Alamo Music. And make sure to check out our new website, alamopianogalleries.com. We'd love to see you at one of our stores. Thanks for coming.